Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Wildcard Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a little Sweet 16 recap, and it's that time. It's time to get elite with the Elite Eight preview. Gee, we're closing down in and bearing down in the finales. We can see the light, yet it's this league, remember. And to get to that light, you still need 18 more wins. The journey is just beginning for our 8 players that have advanced. And of course, to the people that just got eliminated, some good stories as well to talk about. Welcome, G, and what are you looking forward to discussing some Sweet 16 recap and Elite Eight preview?
Yeah, when it comes down to this, I'm really looking forward to talking about what happened in these matches. But I think more importantly, we're at the Elite Eight. We're kind of down to the wire. We're getting close to the end of the road here. So I think we're really starting to figure out who's going to be the person who gets the best start of this season. Ends up with the March title here and gets the first secured spot in the Super League. So I think that's really what I'm getting most interested into because we're really getting down to the nitty gritty here.
Yes, sir. About a week left before we start thinking about that Final Four talk, which will be in about a week. Let's say 7 to 10 days. We'll be able to talk about that. But right now, let's get to the business, G. The business end of the Sweet 16. We're going to start off with that so-called chalk region because this was the one big matchup where it wasn't chalk. JT over Ypez. I'll start it off in this, Champion Road region, not Challenger, Champion Road region. For JT, everyone thought coming in, ammo control was a little rusty. Can he really beat a champion in Ypez? Does he have the grit, the whereabouts, the intangibles? Well, he showed that he can do that. But the asterisk is that was not Ypez, G. That did not look like a Ypez style game to where he would just have clean cut moves and distinct runs to finish. He was out of his element. I know I'm going to hear the buzzer in a second, but congrats to JT. I think there's still more we need to see from him, but to win 5-2, even on certain things, or even in the last game where he won, he missed the power play. Admitted to some crazy mistakes, kept Uno drawing, trying to play your mind games, and even though it worked out, just very confusing all around. This was a supposedly top 3 game. It just didn't live up to it, but for JT, he's now turned into the second, or I guess tied for the most now, and I would say the second most potential in this region behind Sanford, which we'll get to in a minute. For Elite Eight, 4 Elite Eights, congratulations. He had 67% of his tournaments because he was an OG from T1. He's either making an Elite Eight or he's missing. That's it. It's no in between. He's never made a Final Four, so something's got to give. We'll talk about that a little later. Just your thoughts on Ypez turn. What happened to Ypez? Because it was not him. Sure.
Well, you said you thought the buzzer was coming out, but I'm not sure. Maybe there was more other things that could. Oh.
Oh boy. There you
I
go.
guess that was the worst of the round. But yeah, really strange game overall. Ypez kind of. My mic was a little down. That should be better though. Ypez was kind of like all over the place. I really don't know what he was going for in that matchup. But Turner does get the win here. I did say before, I didn't pick him, but I did say Turner had a really legitimate shot to take the win there, and he does take it there. Makes his 4th Elite 8, which is really impressive. He's, I think the only other person who's done that is KT, if I'm not mistaken. Yourself, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah, but impressive stat line. Great start for Turner here. He is showing he could turn up to the Elite 8s, but he's got to try to break through and make that first Final Four because he's 0 for 3 right now, and I don't think he wants to go 0 for 4 here. So he's got a tough challenge ahead of him, but I think Turner's motivated to try to get that first Final Four here and not be still 0% in the Elite 8.
Yeah, it's interesting, G, for Ypez. We're going to talk about, obviously, previewing the Elite, but for him, coming in at 2-1 for the season, it's not the worst thing, but there was definitely some flaws because there was not many clean games he had against Zay, and he admitted he struggled against Leia. It just seemed like to finish this tournament. What was his record? Let me see. Was it? Let me just make sure. 10-9. He pretty much was 500. He was a 500 player, and you gotta think it's not the worst thing to start. It's 2-1. He's a champion. You know he's gonna get back here. But sorry for the background noise there for G. There's gonna be a lot more avenues for him to showcase in T2. I think this isn't the last we hear of him, but he definitely needs to step up to get to more of a consistent level. Because you've seen how he plays. He's one of our teammates in another league. We've seen him last year. He thrives off chaos, but there wasn't any chaos. We really haven't seen much in that region. So I guess that's something to note too. Is we talked about chaos mastery of Pez, but it was a chalk region for sure.
I mean, definitely, and I'm hoping this is like just a one-time thing from Yepes here because I was kind of disappointed with how he played in some of these games, but I think he'll be back. I think this was just like a one-off day, kind of like just not his time right now. So I think he'll come back. I don't think he's in a bad spot right now, but I do think Yepes just needs to take this loss, shake it off, and just move on. Just wasn't his day, and he'll be back next tournament.
That's all you can do. And like I said, we'll get the JT and the Elite Eight preview a little later. This one was the shocker, G. I'm honest to God. This was my shocker right here. A lot of people thought Clay Sanford going 9. I think you even said this should go 8 or 9.
Yeah.
It only went 7, and Sanford just proved once again, with power play, with card start variety, his elite level talent is still there. Whatever happened in Super League is truly a fluke. He took it to him. Clay, I think a couple things he's got to note. Can't do much on the 6-card start he lost. I know he talked about that. Could have did a little bit better on card start variety, but he just wasn't getting the hands of connecting, and you know what that happens. You know what happens there, G. When you can't connect the hands with Charles Sanford around, that's usually a recipe for a loss. But not this bad. I thought it'd be at least an 8 or 9er. Only in 7. Sanford just took care of the business, and once again, another Elite Eight veteran gets his third Elite Eight. He's looking to make, I believe, he's the only guy that has a chance to make a finale, the third finale, and he's the only guy with finale experience. That's something to note. If we get there, thoughts on this one, G?
I mean, yeah, I was kind of disappointed with how Clay ended up going in this matchup, but again, I think we've known this with Clay. Like, if he gets like, he can work with average hands, but if it does, the moment it goes below average, he's in trouble. And I think there was a bit of an unfortunate deal here in that match. So at that point, I think Clay kind of was in a bad spot, and unfortunately, really couldn't recover there. So 5-2. Sanford's moving on. Sanford's pretty much making clean work of what he's been given so far, and he's got Turner, which I did say prior in a discussion with you. I think this is one of the weirdest matchups I've ever seen in the Elite Eight. I truly do not know what to expect coming into this because I usually would think this is like a round of 32 matchup or something like that. But no, we're in the Elite Eight. It's Turner versus Sanford, and with how Turner's playing, it's like he's had some great plays, but he's also made some pretty significant mistakes. So I'm really not sure how that's going to turn out. But it seems like Turner seems to be learning from the mistakes he made in the prior game, and then makes completely new ones in the game he's playing at the moment. So I have no idea what's going to happen in that matchup, but that's going to be an interesting one to watch out for.
It is a rematch, G. Remember, Sanford did beat Jesse Turner in the Elite Eight. I believe it was either T4 or T3. I don't remember,
It
but
was T3. It was
regardless.
100% T3. He didn't make the Elite Eight in Tournament 4.
Right, it had to be T3. Yeah, I remember it was the vacation tournament I was on. Wiped the 4. It was the famous fell short game. It is a rematch. They both know each other. Gee, this has to be one of our oldest matchups. Age-wise, I mean, these guys are 30 and almost 29. That's almost 29 and a half years. So the experience, the life experience that both of these men have. Sanford's been playing this game for over 20 plus years. JT's been playing since he was a kid. We're talking 42 years of experience, but different type of experience. It should be an interesting one, and we'll see how it goes too. G. Sanford gets home court after Yepes is lost. That's a little bit of a different twist, and he's got the least amount of game tape on anybody. 16 games is the least amount. 13-3. He's hot. While JT's got a lot more. I believe at 21 or 20 games at 13-7. Should be a fun one to watch, and we'll see how both men navigate the Elite Eight floor. All right, let's move on. Golden Road. Let's begin with Naman Chamek. Gee, this was a absolute barnstormer of a pace game. I've seen a lot of quick pace games, man, and that was just insane. 24 minutes for a best of 9. The way Nam played that, and he was down 2-0. Keep in mind, it's hard to come back to 5 straight, let alone down 2 and win a game in less than 20, a series in less than 25 minutes. His pace was electric. It looked like he was lightning out there. For Chamek, we talked about him. I think I mentioned he could be a Super League threat. I think he still is. A lot of improvement needs to be done. He did a great job game 1. I think he understands the operations now to say, hey, you know what? I understand that there's a little bit more in the tank, right? There's a little bit more I got to do in pace management. There's a little bit more I can do maybe with scheduling. I know he's hard on the other side of the world, did a great job for T1. But I just felt like there was left more to be desired there, G, after his first 2 games where he just attacked the floor. Game 1 was a straight card log game. And then game 2, he had some, but he needed ammo control. And then he just kind of gave it up. And Nam played into his style where it was no pace management, foot flat to the floor. He was full throttle. And you're going to kind of get the full throttle racing or full throttle playing, as they like to say. Nam's going to thrive off that. He did a great job to move on 5-2. And your thoughts on this game? What Chama can have done better and Nam with the Elite Eight?
I'm gonna be honest. I think really where this game ended was the fact that Chomik was just keeping the pace going with the fast pace, and it was starting to get out of control. And I don't think Chomik really did much in terms of trying to slow the pace down because I think that's what he really needed to do. And unfortunately, it kind of fell out of his hands quickly. 'Cause we've seen Nam. Nam is just someone who wants to go a blazing pace. Doesn't really want to slow down. So it's gonna be an interesting challenge coming up. For Nam to see if he can keep this fast pace going because so far he's really been able to do that most of the tournament. It's just I think M was slowed down a little bit, but for the most part, I think Nam is just really someone who likes the fast pace. So if he could get that quickly, I think he's in a really good spot. But he's gonna have interesting matchup coming up with this Elite Eight. I think this is actually his first.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
it's
first.
if well, I mean, it's not supposed to first lead, but in terms of opponents, I think this is his first person that has that experience in this league with going deep, which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, great job from Nam, like I said. And then G, any thoughts on Chomik? Just his run as he bails out early.
I mean, I think there's definitely some things he could work on, but if he could just do that over the break in between tournaments and just improve that and also keep up what he does well, I think he'll be fine. Again, Sweet 16 is not a bad spot to go out at this point because it's early and whatnot. So you put yourself in a solid start, and technically out of this field, if we for some reason decided to set the Super League off this, only one person out of this field of 16 would have been cut. So it's not a bad spot to be in. You just got to keep up with it and stay consistent.
And we'll see how it goes for sure. But Nam, congratulations to him, man. Rookie into the Elite Eight. Now we're talking about a lot of rookies. Half the field in the Elite Eight is rookies. We'll get that a little bit later. This next match, G, this was a doozy of a match. For Eli, it looked like it was over. 3-1. It almost felt like a bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, 2 strikes situation. And then all of a sudden, along came composure and absolute stupidity. And then it flipped the entire series around to where he just got on a roll. And it was amazing to see the collapse of Retro, but it was also more resilient to see the heart of Eli, right? Because he was going through some things. Obviously, we're not going to talk about it, but he was going through some things. He needed a lot. To get this 5-3, I think shows more about his character. Is there more questions left to be desired? Of course. He's going to have a massive test coming up with Nam, but if he can prove himself right there, he's going to get on people's radars quickly. This was a tough one, G. I know you said Retro had a chance to. I think you picked Retro too, and upset.
I don't think I did.
Talk to me through, or maybe someone did it.
Not for this one. I picked him in the round 32, but I don't think this matchup.
Oh, okay, my bad. Regardless, though, I think it's going to be a interesting one. Recap. I think Eli got away with some things. Retro, a lot more to be desired. Like I said, with composure. I think that's what killed him for sure. Is that how you saw it?
I mean, I think he had the game wrapped up, and then he just pretty much threw it away by talking so much, and then he forgot to call out, or if he forgot to do the call and just got called out, and then the series completely flipped on it that end. So I think Retro had this wrapped up, but he just didn't want it, and that huge mistake just cost it and it flipped the entire series. So Eli stayed resilient. You always got to stay on those call-outs, even if it seems like you're in a bad spot. So he was able to catch that, and he was able to flip the series around. I think just a huge missed opportunity for Retro. I think possible Elite Eight, maybe even a possible Final Four there, but I think he essentially just threw it away. So he's gonna have to rebound after this coming in this upcoming tournament, especially since he didn't really get to play his round one. So. Again, gonna have to see what happens with that, but Eli's gonna move on. Keeps taking advantage of what he's been given, and yeah, Retro I think just gotta throw this one away, and just move on to the next tournament.
That's all you really can do, G. Sometimes moving on, shake it off, and we'll see what Retro can do because we know he's got talent on non-stream games. He seems to get away with it. It's just when we get to that next stream game, whoever he plays, we'll give it a whirl. We'll talk about Nam and Eli. Interestingly enough, Eli will get home court on that, of course, coming up a little bit later in the program. Now we move over to the Rainbow Road region. G, you said hot take. KT loses 5-4. I take that personally, man. Come on. But no, it was really looking good for you early in the game. 3-1 wasn't connecting a lot of the hands. Seemed a little bit off. Sometimes you can get caught out with that 1 o'clock game. That wasn't it. It was just more, was he connecting? And then along came a little power play birdie, and that's what flipped the script. And a couple costly mistakes by DJ, like missing call outs, lack of power play usage. I think that's really what cost him the game in the series, because for a hot second there, he had me in the first half. I'm not gonna lie. And then the second half, just I took over. A lot to be desired for GJ though, in terms of good vibes, because he did take care of Brock. Right, he had a great job against Lane. We all knew that. He took me to the limit. I think he could be a threat moving forward. But to get to that Elite Eight level, he's going to have to do some work as I make my fourth Elite Eight. G, you were streaming this game. You know this game firsthand. Thoughts on this one? Even though the hot take was off, it was close.
I mean, listen, I never said I bet 100, so KT, you did get the win there, so props to you. That was a great performance there. Bring that back from 3-1. But yeah, I think Curtis was in the control early, but then I think that kind of like the vibe play style he has, I think kind of just backfired on him, and he was really just kind of missing out on some good opportunities to secure the game win and just make it 4-1, and then maybe even just take the series win. So again, I think it's another situation where I think Curtis was in the driver's seat, and I think he just kind of steered off course and unfortunately crashed us out of March Madness. But I still think it's a good run for him overall. He had a great performance against William Brock, so hopefully we see more of that going forward. But definitely took a lot from this matchup and is hopefully going to learn more. But KT, on your end, it's going to be another Elite Eight for you. I said it prior, you're the only other person besides Justin Turner who's made 4 Elite Eights, so impressive stat line to have. But overall, I think I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next. And your Elite Eight opponent, I'm going to be honest, I don't think many people were really expecting it going into this, but I mean, you could just take it away. I think you were there for most of that match to see what happened, so.
Yeah, that was the way past dark. That was not the best game in terms of commentary and staying composed and professional from the broadcast. So we tried. Probably the last time we played a game. I think that game ended Saturday morning. But for Carson and Brad, it was just weird. Carson would rally back from 2-0 to 2-2, but then just simple mistakes. He left a green 7 and a green 6 open, where he said the card too early, and Brad kind of had that against him. Went back to a similar card start twice, and just those little mistakes he made that it wasn't enough. He wasn't getting the card luck. I could tell from early he wasn't. Then he kind of rallied it back. Then he was okay, and in just game 6 with the power play, it knocked Carson off his game, and then eventually in game 7, it turned into his favor to where, all right, well, I'm going to use it. And ironically, did the similar style power play when Curtis and I played, and he got the win 5-2. No sickness, so the Brad plague is over. It's good to hear. Right, you don't want to always win on those kind of quirky ways.
Of course.
But he did a good job. Carson was healthy. I think Brad, you got to look at him as a potential sneaky player, kind of more of a dark horse pick. He has a lot of similarities from what I can tell to JT, a lot. But he also has a lot of similarities where he could turn up to where he's like Caesar. Right, there's a lot of things that you have to look at with Brad's game. I think he did a great job against Carson. For Carson, 2-1's nice. I think the big thing for him is he can take away. You beat Caesar. We all knew the momentum Caesar had. G. You even said Caesar was going to win it all at one point. It didn't happen, but
Nope.
to get a win like that against Caesar, you got to take a lot of pride in that, knowing that, hey, I beat that guy. And we get to the end of the year, and it's those two boys at the end of the tunnel for 15th or 16th who's got the tiebreaker. Right, that's big. So it's for tiebreaker purposes, head-to-head matters. Carson got that up on Caesar. Caesar's going to look back and say this is a more missed opportunity. But your thoughts on this one? I know you can't comment on the game, but overall, just your thoughts on Brad making it this far and Carson taking an L early, but a good tournament nonetheless.
I mean, I know Carson didn't get sick, but I'm still going to call Brad the Plague Doctor because, I mean, the way he played, he was doing some sick moves out there. So, really impressive performance from Brad. Carson, I think it's just, again, it kind of just boiled up and just kind of resulted in a bunch of smaller mistakes on your nothing major, but I think it's just sometimes really just not quite the card start you really needed at that point, or just not really the right connector cards to get it work, which obviously isn't like a skill thing at times, but sometimes it's just like you want to try to you want to try to like smoothen your deck to just or your cards to get to that point. But yeah, I think a solid performance from Carson overall. I look forward to see what he does in the future. He did get the sophomore class, so he's off to a good start in winning the class overall for this season. But when it comes to Super League, I don't think he's in a bad spot. I think he's gonna have. I think he should make it back. Try to make it back to the Sweet 16 again for tournament 2 to try to keep that consistency up. Because I think really for a lot of these guys who went out in this round, I think it's just about getting back to this point, and maybe going further. Not necessarily, but like having 4 wins to start out the season is not a bad place to be. So. Yeah, good stuff to Carson, but it's going to be Brad who moves on as the 15th seed, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming, but Brad has been doing a great job so far in this tournament.
Yeah, your eyes do not deceive you. Elite 8 match, G, 1 versus 15. You would think that would be like a pseudo first round matchup, but that's what's going to happen. Be interesting. The boss versus Bad Brad. That's been what it's hyped to be. We'll talk about that in the Elite 8 preview a little bit later. Now we go to the last region, and G, this was an incredible game. ALP once again has proven himself to be Mr. Supermax because once again, it's not.
Ooh,
He goes 20 deep, loses in this case. What was that?
can you just repeat that
What,
again?
G?
You cut out a little bit. Just repeat that again for the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. It said it was a Supermax Austin LaPlante because he's won 23 deep. G. That's the most you can go before the Elite 8, 23 games. He did a great job against Avion. There was times where, I mean, Avion, man, he had 3+4s in one game, nearly lost. He missed a power play. A lot of very careless, even in mid on stream, careless mistakes. I don't know if it was just the early daytime with him or just waking up, but a lot of people thought he should have lost that game. But he did rally at home in a game 9 with 2+4s. That's really what it was, an OP game 9 hand where ALP just had 2 skips. And Abion moves on. We did say Abion would move on, G. I didn't think it'd be this close, though.
Yeah, I
I
know.
thought for sure, I thought it'd be a 5-2 or something, for sure. But you can go ahead.
I mean, yeah, this was one of the bigger shocks of this round, to be honest. I think when it came to this matchup, it's kind of funny because I think the first 2 rounds, some people were thinking LaPlante maybe shouldn't have won, but we're going into this matchup. While we were playing, I think some people thought LaPlante should have won, and he ends up losing, so it's kind of weird how that works out. But yeah, interesting matchup. I think the fact it went 9 was really interesting, but again, I think there was some issues from both players. I think this is the best performance from LaPlante in this tournament. Unfortunately, it's the one he goes out on, but again, if he can make it back to this point next tournament, I think he's in a fine spot, and I think he'll prove everyone wrong that he shouldn't have been a 16 in the first place. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I made the analogy. Some people were questionable about it with the coughing babies analogy. Some people had a few questions for me about that, so I'll try to steer away from that. But again, I think this region, as I said in the last episode, really comes down to taking out the I guess in this case the Queen of the Hill, really. So I think I'm still gonna stand on that testimony, but yeah, Avion's got a big challenge ahead of himself. I think he's got to get rid of the weird plays he was doing throughout. You can't lose with 3+4s. That's just not acceptable. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. But let's jump into our last matchup here.
Yeah, we'll see how Abian goes. He's the last guy left from the world, representing the world from Indonesia. This last matchup, G, I kind of think this was no brainer. Monkey gave, he gave a great fight. I'll give him credit. He definitely didn't get stopped. We know it was just an extreme hot take on by a certain someone, but realistically, when you're playing champ, you gotta make sure you stay composed. And there was just times where his wild card composure, and unfortunately his favorite color bit him. There was times where he would get the yellow and he'd run out. And in a game like this, you can't have a favorite color. You know this. You're playing someone that's a rookie by nature, but we know by trade is not no rookie. That's a world champion. And for Ashley, it's incredible to get this far. It's her region to lose, in my honest opinion. After what I saw from Avion, he's going to have to step it up to 120, not even 100 or 1. You got to go 120. You got to go all in to make sure he puts on his show. Ashley just looks like the best player in his region. It'd be interesting to see what she can do in the next round. But I got nothing really to add here. For Monkey, I will say it's a good start, 2-1. You got the big win against Vapor, which a lot of people thought Vapor would be here. Who knows if he would have gave a better time. But regardless, it's good for Monkey to at least get a solid base and foundation. We'll see what he does for Ashley. Big things ahead for sure. It's probably the best rookie remaining, in my honest opinion.
I mean, yeah, honestly, to be honest, it's just I'm saying honestly a lot, but anyways, I think this matchup went as most people go. I know I predicted a sweep, but that didn't happen. I was a bit bullish on that. But I think Monkey put up a respectable performance, but I'm going to be honest, I think this is the one matchup where I think most people really knew the result already. And honestly, with some of the comments Monkey was making, I think he kind of did too, but I think he was trying to give it his best, and I think he did do that. So I don't think it's a disappointing, I don't think it's a bad performance to go out on. I don't think he should really put his hat down. I think he gave his best effort. But I think it's really going to come down to, for the rest of the season, whether he can bring this consistency and come back to this point consistently, because we saw last year that was not the case. March was the peak for Monkey, and it was all downhill since then. So I think Monkey needs to change the script on that front this season, and I think he needs to at least make it to another Sweet 16 before we start considering him as someone to watch out for in terms of making Super League this year.
That's right. And to be a midfield contender in Super League, I always say, G, top 25. You're in the top 25 entering that last tournament, you've got a shot. Last year was different. Really, it was almost top 15, even top 12. But this year, I think top 25, with how deep the field is, that's where you want to be. You don't want to be 30th on back. That's getting close to must win. But we'll talk about that another time. So we'll be Ashley back at home and Abion for the final Elite Eight match in the Challenger. Yep. All right, so let's go quickly to G. Just going to touch briefly a little bit on D2 and preview a little bit of the Final Four. That's it.
Yeah, all right. So we have our Final Four set for our first D2 tournament. It's been a very solid tournament so far. There's been some bumps in the road, but again, first tournament, we're still working out the kinks, and I think overall we got a great set of matches for this Final Four here. We've had 4 regions, and we have represented from each region going into this first Final Four here. From the Avalanche region, we have Hockey, who's been someone who's playing lights out, blazing pace, and I think is someone who's really watch out for when it comes to getting possibly promoted into D1 next year. I think he's really a player who brings his own kind of style to the game. In the Blizzard region, we have Tapir, who is a our UUL owner, me and KT. Great guy. We talked to him a lot. He had a really great performance in the Elite Eight to make it to this point, and I think he's got a lot of the skills needed to win the tournament. So that's someone that I'm personally looking forward to. And then for the Chile region, we have Stefan, who is the only 1 seed to make it to the Final Four. He kept his seed, he kept his projection, and he made sure that that 1 seed was not taken for granted. So he's done a great job showing that the faith that we possibly had in him was right and justified. So he's looking to make a deep run all the way to the final and hopefully win it all there. That'd be a great story for him. And then finally, in the Declivity region, which I think was one of the best regions so far, we had Background, who ended up sweeping his Elite Eight opponent, which was the number 1 seed in that region, Reda, who was from France. But Background did have a DQ win, unfortunately, along the way, but overall has performed very solid, taking out a lot of great competitors here. So I think he's another great contender for this tournament win. So we got 4 really competitive players in the Final Four here. We're going to have that coming to you within this coming weekend. We're going to have the final actually streamed on the MRE UNO channel. So make sure you watch out for that. That's going to be a good matchup, whoever makes it there. But it'll be Hockey versus Background and Stefan versus Tapir. So 2 great matches to watch out for. Again, join the D2 server. It's in the link in the description. And that's going to be it for my D2 interjection. We're going to move on to the next topic here with KT.
Yeah, who's hot, who's not. We're going to talk about that. And real quick, for those in D2, I believe it's the first time all those guys will be doing a best of 9. Or just getting experience later. We'll see how the endurance factor plays into that. Now, let's go to who's hot, who's not. A post-Sweet 16 edition. You got to think right now, G, who's hot. JT is smoking hot right now. He's on fire. Big win against Ypez, which I think is his first big win of his career. Because there was a lot Caesar, there was the Caesar one, but a lot of people were questioning when's the time. And not only is he hot, but he's got a chance to prove it against the hottest player in the region, Charles Sanford. Talk to me about those two and just who's hot, because they're both hot for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Turner, the Ypez wins his best of his career so far, so I think he's really he has the right momentum here. But again, he's coming up against Sanford here. That's going to be a challenge. He has 2 finals under his belt. So, and like with Sanford, it's like he goes out earlier, he makes it to the final. We've seen that, and he didn't get out early, so it's looking really good for Sanford right now to make it a deep run here. So, I mean, when it comes to that matchup, that's going to be a really tough matchup to predict with all the factors going into it. But I'm looking forward to that. I think Turner is definitely one of the hottest players right now. But I'm going to jump to another player who's hot, and I honestly
Sure.
think that I had a few ideas in mind. I would have said Ashley, but I think Ashley's kind of been stagnant with like I think she's been hot from the start, but I think she's been stagnant. So I wanted to go to someone who I think has kind of increased the temperature, and I think that would actually be Nam. I think Nam, even though some of his matchups have been against rookies, I think it's been rookies who have shown a lot of promise, and I think he's been able to take care of business in both, and he's really able to control the pace, which is actually a really good skill to have in this league. So I actually think Nam's really hot right now. I think he's got a good shot to make a deep run here, possibly have a really good start. I don't know if it's going to be all the way to the championship. I think it's a little too early for that. I could be wrong, though, but I think Nam's got a hot streak going right now, and I will watch out for him in this upcoming Elite 8 matchup.
Yeah, that's pretty much who I had was next. The only other one I would say who's hot would be Brad. I think Brad really showed that, you know what, I'm done with the sickness stuff. I'm done with all those weird intangibles. All that stuff's out the window. He's ready to fight to the next level. He's got a big test. I think we'll see what he can do under the lights, because it's going to be a night game, which is interesting because a lot of those games at night, usually a lot of the rookies are, oh well, they would struggle, but a lot of these rookies like staying up late. So that they're already used to the lights. They know what's up. We'll see how that one goes. For not G, I think the obvious two people you got to look is Yepes. There's got to be more to this than just whatever happened there. It wasn't it. There needs to be a lot more robust zest, I would have to say. He's probably the one guy. And unfortunately, another guy that falls into that category is just Retro. Even though he's a rookie, to choke a lead like that, 3-1, and you have everything going like for you, and then naturally it goes against you by stuff of your own doing, that's got to get corrected or it's not going to last in this league for long. Would you agree there were those two people? Or anyone else to add?
I fully agree. Those are the two people I had. Yepes with I think one of his worst performances in this league so far. I think he's just gotta chalk that away as just a bad day and move on. But yeah, disappointing performance. He's gonna have to build that momentum back up. And Retro, I mean, I think Retro went from being potentially one of the players who is looking the most hot at the moment to being one of the players who looks the most cold at the moment. I mean, that all shifted within one match, which I think is crazy. But Retro's got to get that sorted out as soon as he can, because if he doesn't, and that's the same thing we see the rest of the year, I think he's in a bad spot. Because he didn't get to play that first round, and he only technically has one win right now, so he's 1-1 in terms of series wins, so not the best spot to be in. So that Sweet 16 kind of didn't really end up playing to much of his strengths, unfortunately. But I think if he just throws away what was bad in that matchup and just focuses on what the good was, which was mainly the first half, I think he could come back. But if that doesn't happen, I think he's just going to keep plummeting.
We'll see how Retro bounces back and the world champ bounces back in T2. Now we go to the Elite 8 previews. We're going to start it up from champion to the bottom, which will be the challenger. We're just going to go one at a time. We'll start with the man of the hour, JT. And let's see what he can do. Let's give this one to G while I get a little water here, because I've been talking a lot. G, your thoughts on Jesse Turner's Elite 8 preview and his outlook moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Turner getting that win on Yepes, big win there, but we're going to jump back to before this tournament, his prior two matchups. Had a very close game against Mac Johnson, which was a bit of a scare there, and a lot of people were having questions going in with Turner on how he was going to turn out, and it might have been back half last season Turner coming into this season, which was not what he wanted. But then he ended up taking out Sean Ard 4-2, took out New Ard, kind of made an enemy also in that match, but played great. Had a lot of good plays there, and was able to bring it to the end to get that 4-2 win. And then, as we mentioned before, beats Yepes 5-2. I mean, it's been a great showing so far. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because the closest game Turner's had so far was against Mac Johnson, and that was in the first round. So if he didn't end up winning that game 7, who knows what would have happened here? Maybe we would have had Mac Johnson in the Elite 8 after going winless last year, which would have been a crazy thing. But
So why?
yeah. But overall, I think it's been a very solid tournament so far. He's been only going up so far, so he's hoping to keep that momentum and make his first Final Four.
It's crazy to think JT has yet to make a Final Four. He's 0-3 in this upcoming round of the Elite Eight. He's never made one. Let's see if that changes. But I really looked at that second round matchup with R. There's a lot of talk of mistakes, right? He was making some mistakes with the power play, but his ammo control was better. And then you look at against Yepes, I thought his ammo control was interesting. He left a couple door openers. His power play, it was better, but it could have been left more desired. So I feel like we've yet to see the real JT. I still think there's more in the tank. I think we've only seen him at maybe 70%.
I
So
would
when we give
agree.
him that, now once we see a full complete game from him, I'll make us an outlook. But I'll say this much: he's got a lot of potential. That you look at his evolution of the game. It's still classic JT dry. That's never going to change, right? We're going to have a move named at like classic Turner dry, right? But I'm starting to see a little bit more of a. It's kind of funny. He starts to play a little bit more like Avi on the way he's playing, a little bit more riskier, but it seems to work because the opponent isn't catching on to those mistakes or is losing composure or is just playing way different than what everyone thought. It can work. I'm just more interested to see how his evolution of his program is because we know he's changed. We talk about top off seasons. I don't know about him having a top off season. He's got a lot of great things coming down the pipeline, in September. But there's a lot of things that JT will look at and say, you know what, I've made it this far. I'm going to say house money. I think he plays with house money. He's going up against another superior opponent on the road again. Watch out for JT for sure. Now, this next guy needs no introduction. Three-time Elite Eightist, and potentially the only guy that can make a third final. Charles Sanford, 13-3. G. He's the least amount of game. We're starting it off with Steve Cologne. I had a little bit of a scare early when it was 1-1, but then just took care of business 3 straight. There was not much really he did wrong against Bowtie. I can't even think of anything. I know it was a 4-0. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, nothing. I don't have anything against Bowtie. He just wiped the floor. Bowtie lost composure. Now against Clay, if there was one thing left to be desired with him, you have to think of, well, when's he going to play poker? And I didn't see that. And coming in, I don't think he's going to. And at this point, G, this is the bigger thing. I think there's a bigger meaning to this match than more people meet the eye. We made a new rule change that there's something called the Masters class. If you win this Masters class, you'll go down forever. It's like Peter winning the first tournament forever. You'll go down as the first ever Masters champion. I know it's not. I know it's a golf tournament, Masters tournament in golf, but this is a
Yeah.
Masters class champion.
You do not get a green jacket if you win, though. That's clarification.
No green jacket. But because of that little nugget, I think this is what's going to make the matchup a little more tenser. I don't think Sanford wants to give that up. He wants to be a first to something. He's never won a tournament. It's hard to believe. With all the success, he's the only current guy that's over 100 career games. I think he's done a great job just going through the motions, going through the mold, and now I think kind of like JT. I don't know if we see the full Sanford because he's almost sandbagged. We don't need to see him turned up, and he can turn up and down whenever he wants. He's like a switchboard. He can just switch on and off whenever. And because of that, I think that's what makes him dangerous. He still is one of the best, if not the best, on power plays in the league. Yeah, I gotta go here with Sanford as definitely on the outlook. I got to see great things in his outlook. If he plays the way he does, the outlook looks good for me. G. Thoughts on Sanford making it this far? Typical CS making it happen. The Sandman.
I mean, yeah, don't disagree with you at all here. I mean, I think he's had one of the easier paths to make it here, but I think as the 2 seed, you're expected to get that easier path since you've built up such a good resume there. So, and it kind of helped him also because I think this region played out mostly the way you would think it is. The only exception was Turner taking out Yepes. Besides that, there was only one other upset, and it was an 8-9, so not really an upset. So, this region played out very much how you would expect it too, and I think that helps to Sanford's advantage. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he handles this matchup against Turner. Again, I think this is one of the weirdest matchups we've ever seen in this Elite Eight. But it's gonna be interesting. I mean, yeah, took care of Cologne, took care of Bowtie, relatively took care of Clay there. So I think that was an impressive win there overall. But it's got one more to make another Final Four here. Sanford is looking good, but I think Turner's actually looking good, which I think a lot of people will be shocked about. But I think this is actually going to be the most difficult matchup to predict, in my opinion, because of all the factors that go into this. This is for the masterclass. This is it's a different Turner, but it's also the same Turner at the same time. And then you just got Sanford, who's like always been playing very well. So like it's a very difficult matchup to predict. I know when we're getting to our predictions, I had a very hard time coming up with a big prediction here, but we're gonna move on to our next region here.
Yeah, we're going to our first player, which, man, what can you say about Nam? Man, Nam, this guy is my Super League prediction. I think he's going to make it. The way I see it, the way he can control the pace at 14, incredible. Let's look at his path. Ellison, I think that was just what he wanted. I know we talk about James Ellison being twice his age and all that, but Ellison plays so quick to where you're almost giving him extra ammunition. That was just a no-brainer, and his ammo control against Ellison was great. Now against M, you wonder if it's a little bit of a case of M just got over that gold win and maybe a little hangover, but it wasn't the case. There were some mistakes now made. I mean, he even admitted to a missed call out on 5 cards with the internet issue. Not of his own doing, but he could have been quicker on that. The way he was playing two against M seemed a little more passive because M controlled the pace down a little bit, which is something to note. But he still found a way to persevere and make it through. And then this last match, man, at that age, G, you know what? You're down 2-0. You can easily say, I'm done. All right, it's easy. It's easy to just throw up your hands like, it's over. But he never did. He never quit. He knew that it's not over till it's over. And, he got back to a 3-2 lead. And then once he got to a 3-2, he stepped the pace up even more to ludicrous pace at this point. Ivan Lightning just ludicrous pace. And then Chama couldn't hang with him. And that's what it takes to win in this league. Is, like you said, off the top, pace management. If you can have that at a young age, with how young he is, not just as a rookie, but as a life experience, he'll go far. And that's the key with him. Now, my outlook for him is going to be down to two things, right? It's still going to be composure, right? You're that young. Can you stay composed? This is a big game. This is your first finale of anything. Even if it's a regional, it's a first finale of anything. So that makes things a little different. And then the second thing is, what happens when he runs into a player who's got a little slower pace? We need to know that. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Eli. We know Eli can play fast, slow. He's got good pace management, but there are times where it's a little bit different situation. We'll get to him in a minute. I think my outlook is good. He just has to do some little intangible and composure things to say, all right, I'm going to be the next level. Because if he does that, yeah, I can see him making a final. It's possible, but it's going to take a lot. Like you said, I agree with that. He's ready for the challenge. He's a youngster. He doesn't know what he doesn't know. And sometimes when you're a youngster like that, you don't know what you don't know. It's a good thing to have. You have less pressure and you just go out there and perform. Any expectations for that for now, my man?
I think when it comes to Nam, really, I think the one thing I have to comment is I think the biggest missed opportunity for him is the fact that it doesn't have that real big win, because the highest seed win he's gotten so far is number 8 against James Ellison, which, like, no disrespect to James Ellison, but that's not exactly the best win you could get in this league. You could definitely find some better wins throughout, but had that win there, took care of business against M, which M kind of stole that gold win that he could have got there, but that's just kind of how it goes sometimes where that happens. But and then you also had Chomik, who, while Chomik had a lot of hype, he was still just a rookie, so we don't fully know what the picture is in terms of the numbers. But I think Nam's definitely taken advantage of the path he's been given so far, and I think really when it comes down to here, he's going to get his first veteran challenge, someone who has experience with making the Final Four. So I think this is going to be a new challenge for him, and see whether or not he's up to the task to make it further. But yeah, I mean, at this point, Nam really likes that fast pace, so I think he's going up against someone who tries to disrupt that. So I think Nam's going to have to be flexible here, kind of similar to what they were with M, except I think even more. And I mean, I think really it's just this point you got to lock in for Nam here, and that's really his goal to the Final Four.
Time to lock in. That's basically what G's saying there. Well, we're going to talk about that next guy. This next guy, G, there's a lot of things where
Ooh.
we're not going to discuss a lot because I don't want to discuss it. It's not my business. But if we take those off-server things out of the equation, look, he got through Edwards the end, but it was Ed, right? Ed is he's trying, he's learning a lot, but is he there? No. He got through Brian, okay. Now, this last match, I think, really showed the true character of Eli. You know what? I'm not going to take this one lion down, which matters more. From what I can see as a player, it's all about that composure. Right, I think his composure's there. He sounded down out of it when he was down 3-1, but you know what? It doesn't matter until you get to that game 5 and 6. And that's where as the series go on, the vets take over. They just know, they understand the composure, they understand the intangibles, and he understood the intangibles. I think for Eli, my outlook is you got to go out there and prove you're the man. This is your region to lose. You lost gold. You didn't really lose already. That was just unfortunate. You lost gold though. You lost Tago. Those were the big names. And when you lose those two people, it's your region to lose. And all that pressure. What are you going to do with all that pressure on you? You know, we talked about Eli at the beginning of the year, G, on the preseason. That would he fold? Well, he didn't fold. He was a top veteran, and he won the class. Congratulations. It's a big step in the right direction. Because of that, he's got house money. So he's got outlook as house money. And what's he going to do under pressure? This is his first real pressure moment. Yes, it's a rookie, but it's a quick rookie. It's a rookie that plays so super quick that the game is over in 10 seconds in your head. He's going to have to be mentally processing a lot of things while not trying to get sped up at the same time. It's a hard task, but if he can do it, I think he can prove everyone what he's back, and he'll make a second Elite Eight, second Final Four, as I believe it's the second Elite Eight, or third Elite Eight, second Final Four, correct. But G, your thoughts on Eli? Forget the off-server stuff. Just what have you seen from him in his outlook?
Yeah, I mean, I said before I didn't think his off season was that great, but I think in the end, I think he's really just trying to keep his head in the game, and I think it's worked so far. Again, in terms of his path, I think he's another one who's kind of been taking advantage of some fortunes in a way. Ziemba, Brian, Resha, that's not really necessarily the greatest catalog of wins there, but he's in the Elite Eight. He's taking advantage of it. He's going for the deep run kind of work ethic here, so it's working for him so far, and does have Nom that is a rookie, so we'll see how that goes, but I honestly don't have much to say. I think Eli's been really just doing a good job taking advantage of what he's been given so far, so we'll see how that goes in the Elite Eight. I did say before, if he didn't make the Elite Eight, I think this tournament was considered a failure, so he did make it to the Elite Eight, so he's gotten to that point where I think he's got mission accomplished for March, so we'll see how it goes. Looking to make it to his second Final Four, but I don't think the road gets any easier here.
No, G, it never does get any easier. You got to understand, it's 18 more wins is a long time. There's a lot's going to happen between the Elite Eight, and if you're lucky enough to make a final or even a Final Four, there's just a lot of things that will happen. Every game, every card means more. And speaking of every game, every card means more. This next guy, G. Oh man, what does this guy can't do except win one, right? Now, this next guy's myself. Look, I'm going to say this about. I'm not going to talk too much about myself because I want to make this an unbiased show. There's a lot that I've got to clean up. At the end of the day, have I played 100%? It's hard to say, right? Against Rad, was I really playing? I was playing 5%. G, come on. I mean, when you saw that game, I was on.
It felt like you were playing -5%, to be honest, with some of the comments you were making, but all right.
-5. Let's go with -5. Against Acosta, it was maybe 20% because you gave me the sneak attack. I mean, there's too many sneak attack wins there. Now, against DJ, I couldn't do any of that, right? I intentionally didn't do that. I knew I had to lock in, right? We're done. Those first two games are out of the way. I had some flaws, on certain things I couldn't connect with the cards. But you know what they say, G? Similar to Eli, I found a way as the composure gets on. The outlook's going to really be, G, is what my composure can do to take me forward. Because everyone knows this isn't the round that usually trips me out. It's the next round. This is a big round, though, because I'm playing someone that's a little bit more different than usual people. I know he likes to play at night. I study his tendencies. Brad is an interesting character. Right, I have to look back and to just see what he did against Lamas to really understand where he gets better, because he seems to get better with age. As in the series gets longer, he gets better. As the series gets longer, KT gets better. That's what the chess match is going to be. I don't think there's going to be a game of many mistakes. It's going to be a disciplined game for sure. And your thoughts on my outlook?
I mean, I think your outlook for the most part is pretty good. You had that round one game, which, I mean, you're the one seed. You're supposed to have that easy round one, although we saw this tournament that didn't seem to be the case for some other paths. But, yeah, not much to say there. Acosta, I think it's just kind of, he still has a lot to learn and didn't quite get it. Curtis, I think, gave up a pretty good fight. I think he had you on the ropes a bit, but you were able to handle it and stay in it. But this is an interesting matchup. This is one of the rarest matchups you could see in a 64-person bracket, and that's the 1 versus 15. I don't think this matchup has ever happened in actual March Madness. So obviously this doesn't do much, but there's no outlook to see how this matchup would go. You would think on paper the one seed's the one who would prevail 99% of the time, but we've seen how Brad plays. He had this kind of plague sort of thing following him, but he kind of threw that away in this last round, as we'll get to him in a second. But it's an interesting matchup. I think KT, you've played for the most part pretty well so far this tournament. You've kind of just taken care of business where you need to, and I think this is just another situation where it's just take care of business, but if you're thrown in the ropes early, you gotta just get back up and stay in it.
That's it, man. Composure. Got the top legend class back-to-back, 2 tournaments in a row in the regular season. That's big, right? You get that momentum, play with a little house money, knowing no matter what happens here, right, you at least got that in the bank and go for that 4-0, right? And then the Brad coming up next. The first game with Lamas, I think there's going to be a lot of that one. I think was a real asterisk because Lamas, his temperature was just out of control. As a series guy, you can tell he was just placing cards fine. Second series against Stingray, it just wasn't Brad. It just seemed like both guys were goofing off, and I really couldn't read any. I tried to study it, but I couldn't read. I wasn't there for the game. But this last match against Carson, I had enough for Reed to say, he's there. He's not going to make mistakes a lot. He's not going to play to where, I'm going to make a bold gamble, similar to Ashley likes making bold gambles. Ashley, JT like making bold gamble. Avia, he don't do that. He plays pretty disciplined and pretty composed on the table. And as I said, it's almost like a track surface, right? It's not that best year 1, 2, 3, but as it gets age, he just gets better. He just starts aging like fine wine, similar how the series is. It's just going to be interesting to see how he ages like fine wine against one of the best here. And in terms of composure, this could easily be, the way I look at it, could be the most composed game of the entire round. I see he's made improvements. His post-game comments from where he was playing Lamas is completely different. I look forward to seeing his outlook. I think his outlook, though, is just unknown, right? He's a wild card. He's truly the wild card of this wild card. But because we don't have any data on 115, because we still don't know the data on what he can do at 100%, because he hasn't been to that level yet of 100%, there's a lot more to look forward to for Brad. I think he's going to be great. He's probably striking out 0-2, though, from his first 2 games of sick. There's no way I'm getting sick. And we'll go from there. But we'll see how it goes. Thoughts on Brad? Brad, Doc.
Yeah. I mean, I think we could throw out the sickness part of it because Carson did not get sick. But if he did get sick, I know you said you have good health, but you just have to keep it in the back of your mind. But Carson wasn't sick, so I think you're safe for now. But yeah, I think Brad's kind of had a very up and down tournament. Again, the first 2 rounds with illness. Brad barely ousted Lamas there, kind of brought it back, and was a really good win, but he admitted there was a lot of mistakes, there was a lot of nerves going into it, so kind of just all over the place. Was able to take care of business with Stingray, who, again, Stingray I think kind of just was 2 different players between round 1 and round 2. But again, Brad just absolutely took care of business. And then, again, I think Carson was his most impressive win. I think he played very well in that. May not be best on the resume, but I think in terms of play style, it was easily his best one. So overall, I think Brad's on the up and coming. So I think he has this biggest challenge yet against you, KT. But again, it's March. We've seen how chaotic this tournament has been. Anything could happen. So yeah, we're just gonna have to see what ends up happening here.
And Brad mentioned it in his post-game quote: "Every game is a must-win against KT." That's how I feel it now. Once you get to this part of the old land, when you're in the Elite Eight but beyond, every game must win. Can't really be slacking off. It's time to get locked in, and we'll see how that one goes. And the last region,
absolutely.
Abiant, look, man. Let's start with. Look, we talked about G. I don't want to harp on it too much. I know he's taking it pretty hard. He still is deep down, Yoshi. We talked about Yoshi in a clutch. It just didn't occur. Abiant did a great job, controlled the pace, was really exceptional throughout that game. I thought that right there and now, like, this guy's going to be special. And against Nick, man, was he down 2-0, came back, and Nick plays the opposite style of now. He plays really slow, right, similar to 15 Dark. And he took care of that like a pro. Great pace management was great. And then against ALP, I mean, he was just making haymaker mistakes. 3+4 barely escapes. 2+2s, and then draws. And then half look KT Classic with a green reverse and then draws. And he plays green wild, green reverse, and draw. It just didn't look like himself. I don't know if it was the time zone or or what was going on. There's just a lot of questions because of that. Where if I would have been more, you know what, he had 3 straight games in a row where everything was clean. I would be like, he's got a real good shot. He needs to clean his my outlook. He's got to clean up those simple mistakes and do some less gambling. You can't be gambling. The time to gamble is over. It's okay to gamble in round 1 and 2, and to an extent round 3, depending on opponent. Gambling's done. Yeah, he needs to learn that, you know what, can't gamble. Got to stay more locked in. And if he can do that, then he'll give it a run. But realistically, my outlook is just until he stops the gambling, until he can get a little bit more cleaned up on those mistakes, clean shaven on those mistakes, he's going to have a rough road ahead of him. I don't know if this is going to be as smooth as people think. And he also has to adjust to a weird environment. Gee, I mean, he started off on the road, then he went on the road again, then he had a home game, and now he's back on. It's very rare to get a home game as a 13. Now you got to go back on the road. There's a lot of things that he has to adjust to, not just only time zone, and then we'll go from there. But what do you think about Abian? There's a lot to like, but there's also a lot to be desired, like most of these players have been so far.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with Avion, I think really it just comes down to it's he had a great win in that first round against Yoshi, and he's kind of just run the table since. But I think that last round with the plant was really concerning. It's kind of been a bit of a decay in a way for Avion. I mean, I think he played great in the first round. Second round, I think was about the same. Could have been a little better though. Did get the win against Nick. But then round 3, I mean, he almost lost it there. So it really, really close matchup. I think Avian was looking for something that was a much bigger win there, but goes game 9, able to survive. But he does get that experience of surviving those close, tense games. But he's got a huge challenge against Ashley here, so I'm really not sure what Avian's going to bring to the table. I'm saying it better not be from what we saw last round, because if it is, I think the series is going to be over very quickly. But overall, I just really think it's an interesting path Avian's taken to get here, and we'll see how it goes. But I think Avian's gonna need to bring out something that he hasn't shown before to make this Final Four here.
Well, we'll see how it goes. And the last person, G, is Ashley. Is there anything else to say? You take care of H4, all okay. Dominant fashion. Then you got to escape Cap, because Cap really liked those low card starts and barely escapes 4-3. But then absolutely destroyed Monkey 5-2 realistically, despite Monkey's best efforts. Has looked like the best rookie. I looked at her press conference, similar to Sanford's press conference too. Just very similar style in terms of mindset. And Sanford likes to play poker. I think she knows how to play poker too. Some of the comments saying a little rust and whatnot. In terms of mindset, similar to Sanford. But in terms of play style, her play style reminds me a little bit of vintage Fitzy. Vintage Fitzy would gamble and would stick. But then it reminds me a little bit of kind of how G-Man, yourself, G, and a little bit of how Sanford does it, more you two, to where it can play the color efficiency really well and know when to play. Now, the only thing I will say with Ashley, there's one outlook I have, because there's not much to look, there's not much really out there for me to say other than it's her region to lose, is we'll see how she does on, let's say, extreme high cards. We haven't seen that element of her game yet, right? And power play was a little shaky, but hasn't really needed to use it to an X level. Against Abian, who likes to make mistakes, that's going to be the key. If she doesn't make any mistakes and he makes mistakes, like you said, could be over. But I don't have many weaknesses here. This is probably the best rookie I've seen. There's a reason why she has WC pedigree, for sure.
All right. My dog might be barking in the background, so apologies if that picks up. But yeah, I think Ashley won out in what was probably the most challenging pod in this entire tournament. I'm still gonna stick to that sentiment. Beats out H, who was a very promising rookie last year in tournament 5. Took KT to the limit, swept H right there. Again, we mentioned that game did had some unfortunate card luck there. I mean, most of this pod sort of did, which is unfortunate. But takes out Captain 4-3, who Captain was really just the master of the low card starts, and really shouldn't have been a 15 seed. He'll probably be higher up next tournament, but great game there. And then I think just being part of the best pod really showed in the Sweet 16. Really took care of business against Mookie 5-2. And in my opinion, I think it'll be the same there. I'm not going to say how my outlook is for the rest of the tournament, because I know some people don't like when I do that, and they think I have like some sort of jinx in a way. But all I'll say is I have high hopes for Ashley here, and I'm looking forward to see what she does here in this upcoming Elite 8 matchup.
Well, it's that time, G. We've previewed everybody. We went as far as we can go. It's time for predictions. We're going to start off at the top, though. We're back Charles Sanford coming in at 13-3 versus JT at 13-7. This is the toughest match in your opinion, so I'll start it off. This game is going to come down to can Jesse Turner stay disciplined, right? And keep in mind, there's no reveal show at the time of the recording, so the computer did predict Sanford 5-4. I am going to say Sanford does get it done, but I think it's 5-3. I think JT's run ends here. I just think the problem is Sanford in a rematch is a little bit different than Sanford against the new person. Him in a rematch is not going to play poker. That's one. He's not going to take it lightly, knowing that the Masters class is on the line. He likes golf too. And number 3, forget all that fun stuff. I just think the problem is if JT runs it dry, Sanford is one of the best at closing those doors, and he knows how to do an end-around play really good. His end-around game is top 4 in the league, maybe even top 2. And at least in the regular season. And the problem is those factors alone. Can JT really squeak one out with 14, 13, 12, 11, 10 card starts? I don't know. JT's a really good 9 through 7. He's got a good mid-tier package, even 10 to an extent. Lower, Sanford's good at 6. That's his bread and butter. 6 he's really good at, and 7. Because there's just too many similarities, I'm giving the edge to Sanford. I think just because he has the overall series 6-2 on him in his career, I think he gets a 5-3 and improves that to 11-5. There's too much Charles Sanford here for me, but it's not going to be like Sanford dominates what he's been doing. It's going to be closer. I think just too much Charles Sanford late once we get to game 7 and 8. And with the power play, with 2 of them, that's the difference overall. I'm going Sanford 5-3. What do you think?
I mean, you talk about rematch. I don't. Something's telling me I don't think this is the same Turner that played in Tournament 3 last year, to be honest. I think there's something different here. So, again, I really had a hard time coming up with a prediction for this one. And, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think I didn't really have one until like an hour before we recorded this. But I think in the end, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Sanford. I like what I've seen out of Turner so far, but I think the experience with this point and like winning at this point is gonna go far, and I think it's gonna be a 5-4 here. I do think Turner has been playing really well, and I do think he's gonna bring something new to the table, and it's gonna be one of the more intense matchups of the round, but. I think I'm just gonna stick with this experience here. If I'm wrong, so be it. But yeah, this is gonna be an interesting match to watch out for. I think this was a tough matchup to predict, but yeah, I, I don't really have much to say. I think it's just. I think I just decided to go with my gut feeling. I think Sanford's gonna win. Unfortunately, I do think Turner's gonna be 0-4 in this round.
Yeah, it's tough to think, but it's just Charles Sanford, G. And I know we have our battles and whatnot in the commission room, but he's still one of the best guys here.
Productive
And you
battles.
got, yeah, they're good battles. Well, in just terms of just going back and forth, but they're all civil. That's the nice thing about us. We all are pretty civil as a group in the commission team. But regardless, forget that aside. It's just Charles Sanford in a regular season. I mean, shout out to him too. Another thing too, we should mention this, G. Congratulations to the man. If his next series win will give him the all-time series career wins record at 13. He's the only guy over 100. I'll join him next round against Brad, game 3. But he's definitely been the guy ever since he lost the dark. I remember him losing the dark, and I kept saying, he's still going to be special. And well, here we are, not even a year later, and yeah, he's still one of the best. Now this next one, G, is a little bit unproven versus a little experience. It's Eli Nam. Well, computer went Nam on this one, 5-4. I agree. I think it's out. I think it's going to be 5-4. I think Eli is going to get a lot of momentum early. I think he's going to have Nam on the road. I think he could easily be a 4-2, maybe even 3-1. The problem is Nam has this way to just even when he loses, it just speed up the pace even faster. It's rare because usually when you lose, Jay, you want to slow it down. He just goes quicker. It's like ludicrous. It's almost like you're in a what's a good analogy? You almost see the snake in the grass there, and you know it's getting closer, but then it's right on you. And then once it swallows you up, you're done. Right? He's like a snake in the grass with Nah. I expect him to continue the pace. I mean, he's not too far from the Everglades, so I guess that's a good analogy instead of just the old young pup that I always like to do. But regardless, I think Eli is going to have a breakout in here. I think he's going to break out and get to a game 9. But I think anything can happen in the game 9. And because Nam has a power play left, it's going to come down to a power play. I think Nam's power play game has been really good. Eli's is good too. But I got to give it to Nam. He'll get the run because he's shown to get the run quicker. Upset special. I'm going Nam. I'm going with the computer. I have to anyway. I'll go 5-4. Give me Nam in a close one. Thoughts, G?
Oh man, this is another matchup that's tough to predict. I don't know. I think when it comes to this matchup, I think Eli's really someone who tries to deviate from a specific plan the opponent has, but also sometimes he just runs with the pace. So I think that plays to Nam's advantage. So I'm gonna go with Nam 5-3. Again, I think this is a bit of a weird matchup to predict, but I don't really got much to say, to be honest. But I do think Nam does make it through here. I think this region overall has been kind of a wacky one, so why not go with a bit of a wacky winner to start out with this first tournament here from the Golden Road region? So I have Nam 5-3. I don't got much else to say.
Not much else to say. It's all right, G. We'll see. We'll see. Can Eli deviate from that rapid pace, or does he have a little bit something up his sleeve? We know he's going to want to pick the 7, right? 7, 6, 8. That's what we know. That's his bread and butter. Let's see if Nam can go higher. I can't make a prediction, G. The next one, it's me versus Brad. All I can say is I wish Brad the best of luck. I've seen his game. It's definitely not mistake-oriented like it was game 1, 2, with 3 of Lamas. He's improved that. He ages like wine as the series goes on. I age white line as the series goes on. Composure's really good. It's probably going to be the most composed matchup of this entire round. But I can't make a prediction. Computer did have me 5-3 though for the record, so I'll get this one to G. G, it's all you here. And you got to stream this one too, so what are you thinking here?
KT, you know what I did. You know what I predicted last round, right?
Yeah, you did.
That didn't happen. But we technically have a 1-up on the numbers here. Curtis was 5. Brad is 6.
And I'm 7.
And you're 7. And someone's 8. I don't remember. Maybe we don't have an 8. But anyways,
I don't know.
Yeah. So I am going with 5-3 to KT. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm not going to do the upset this round. I think you've got what it takes to just close this deal out, win this region overall. I think Brad's played great last round, and I think he's kind of really built up his game. But I think this task is too tall here. I'm going to have KT win. I'm not going to predict the upset this time like it did last round, but I think Brad's going to put up a good fight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's interesting. Like I said, the composure battle will be key. I think it'll be the most composed game on paper. Now, of course, there's always going to be that intangible of how will Brad handle the lights. He already's got multiple streams, right? So, and now, well, actually, he's never been in a stream game with G. Now that I think about it, so he'll have to handle your streams. You've been it, but that I guess is a little bit different. Your streams are a little more sped up. Mine's a little bit more dragged out. But regardless, I think he'll handle that pretty well. Should be a good battle. I'm looking forward to having fun with the man from Washington State. And of course, the last matchup, G, Ashley Abian. Look, I'm gonna computer. I believe predicted Abian losing 5-3. Ashley 5-3 for the win. I think this does go 8. I think it's the right score, but I think Ashley just has too much. I think it's easily. I could see Ashley running forward 1 early, maybe giving up 2, saving her power plays, and then just taking care of business at the end. I just don't know if Abian has enough to stay composed and with mistakes. He needs to. It's not even composure, it's mistakes. No, he does a great job. Gee, I was telling you about this, and probably, I mean, he answers questions like how I answer questions, which bunch of fluff and a bunch of nonsense. And it's almost like reading an encyclopedia. What is this guy saying? But at the end of the day, you can't really do that unless you know how to work the system. I don't think answering those kind of questions is just going to work. I mean, we saw Monkey try to say ditto every time you play a ditto. I actually don't care. Right, you're a world champion. You're supposed to be here. Get it done. And I believe in both of our cases, we'll take on Sanford. I got Ashley 5-3. This is probably the only one I can firmly say is a true. I think this is going to happen. Everything else, I don't know, but I think this is a 5-3. Ashley should win. G, what do you think?
I'm going to bump it 1 down. I'm going to say Ashley 5-2 here. Again, I think this is Ashley's region to lose. I think she's one of the best players left here, and I think Abian, especially after the last round with the amount of mistakes he was really making and almost costing him the series, there's a lot of questions going around him overall, and I think Ashley's just been playing lights out, solid throughout the entire tournament, so I think Ashley just keeps on going here. I think Ashley wins 5-2, and I think she's going to move on to the Final Four.
Well, G, if we go off of the predictions, it would be A to D. B to C, which means champion, challenger. It'd be golden rainbow. What a Final Four if that happens. You got almost the youth versus the experience. You'd have guys in Sanford and myself that would have played over 220 plus games combined in their careers. I believe over 100 something wins, ridiculous numbers. And what would it be? 7 Final Fours versus 2 rookies into the Final Four with a world champion and the youngest player in the league. Ironically enough, that would be something. It would be a lot of great storylines. But alas, we don't know. It's March. Anything can happen. It could be completely opposite. You never know at March, man. It's really a wacky tournament, chaotic incarnate. But let's get to it, G. The last topic, is there any hot take you can imagine here? Because there's only been one in terms of we're only going with Nam as an upset. Is there anything you could see? We haven't seen many comebacks lately. The games going over an hour have been more susceptible. I mean, it's gonna happen. The series goes longer. That's understandable. There's been no card comebacks. Is there anything you could come up with, G, or we're pretty clean here on everything?
It's tough. I always like to make a hot take prediction, but I mean, this at this point, it's kind of difficult. I could go with a boring one here, but yeah, no, I don't know. I really don't have much, so I'm just gonna go with like a boring one here. Honestly, I think all these games go at least an hour. Not the most flashy prediction, but that's what I do think is gonna happen. But yeah, it's kind of hard to make a hot take at this point in the tournament.
I'll go with Ashley Albion under 25 minutes. I guess that's the only one I could say. That's probably the only one I could see going less because if Albion loses, let's say in 7, or even if he gets losing 6, it's not going to go far in general. And the way Ashley plays is quick. Albion, he plays kind of unorthodox at times. I'll say that one goes under 25, but I'm with you. There's no room for error. There's really no room for error here. So I got nothing, G. But G, I want to say thank you so much. We will have an Elite Eight recap for sure, and then we'll have our Final Four preview, which everyone wants. And I don't know, I don't know if we're going to be doing a Final Four. I think we're just going to combine the Final Four.
No, we're just gonna wrap it up to one big gift basket. So we'll go over the Final Four and the final, and then just go from there. So
yeah, we only got a couple more. I've only got 2 more episodes in March, and then of course there is no such thing as a Super League reveal for T1. Maybe we'll just give some power rankings at the post finale just to see where the fans are at, see what they like. And then we'll move into T2G, whatever that theme and tournament desires, right? New format, too. A little new format with the T2. There's no best of 13 finale. The power plays are a little bit different.
yep.
And that's about it. But we're looking forward to it. We're getting to it, people. We're down to it. The last 2 weeks of the entire March tournament. It's kind of hard to believe, gee, we're here on March 11th. We started on February 12th, technically, but 11th for a waiver day. And a month later, and yeah, these things go far, man. Last year we would finish a tournament in 30 days, but it just shows you a 64-man field takes time, that's for sure. But appreciate the work you've been doing. Keep up the great work in D2 as well. We look forward to seeing the Final Four and the finales there. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, of course, YouTube, our main base. And the links below, join a server in D1, D2. Of course, you can find me at Instagram and the league on Instagram as well. All right, G, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And we'll see you guys back for episode 6 for our Elite 8 recap and Final Four preview. Until then, goodbye, everybody. We're peacing out.